Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you have an amazing day. We're going to take a quick look here at Toncoin, see what's going on here. Of course, I've got a lot of requests for this one, and I can totally see why it's up a decent percent here so far today, somewhere in the range of 7-8% on the day, which is fantastic. It's got a pretty stark reality here too, as well, with this falling wedge breakout pattern. We're going to talk about how to identify those, and also key level supports and resistances that we can kind of note that kind of cause this to happen. And also in hindsight too, you can see this descending trend has been broken, or with the lower highs and lower lows has effectively been established. Okay, so we've broken through that. We're establishing higher highs and higher lows now instead of lower lows, lower highs, and we're in a position right now where the price should continue to break out. So let's talk about that. Just before we do, though, I do want to note, congrats again to our community members for some awesome profits here from Bitcoin. Nice Bitcoin long at about 57%. We turned around to short it as well just last night for a nice 13% there in 8 hours. And of course, OGN, that's a short we took 3 days ago at about 32%. You probably saw my video explaining why I took that trade, but if you're familiar or unfamiliar, double check that. We actually have, I make analysis videos daily, of course, like this one, where you can kind of understand specifically what's going to happen next. So again, you want to be part of that Crypto Cash Premium. CryptoCash.tech is a site linked down below where you can learn how to become a better trader with my trading academy, and also, of course, benefit from the signals I send. Those are all the trades that I take. Essentially, I share those to my community members. All right, so let's take a look here at Toncoin. So what I'd like to talk about first and foremost is obviously the falling wedge, just kind of identify why this happened. Typically a wedge, of course, works itself into exactly that, establishes lower lows and lower highs until it eventually breaks free. The reason why it breaks free is because it works itself into a tightening pattern. So similar to Bollinger Bands, you can see the price action starts to contract. You can see this on smaller time frames where the price gets tighter and tighter, and it eventually expands. Okay, so that's kind of how that works. Again, that's a poor representation. A lot of details I'm leaving out there, but what I'm getting at here is that when you have these kind of descending trends that eventually work themselves into a tighter pattern, breakout's inevitable, either up or down. The reason why it's breaking up, though, is because it originated from the bottom. Okay? Now, a lot of times, falling wedge patterns are bullish, as they essentially break out to the upside, considering they started from below and hit a high point. Okay, now you got to keep in mind the reason why it usually bounces is because of the most recent highs. Those are essentially provided right here. We can see that. Furthermore, too, you can also identify that the most amount of volume is there as well. So that's obviously a good bouncing point. Just to double check, we do have some fair value gap below the price action right now, but an upper liquidity level. So it's very common for upper liquidity levels to be tested. So there's a good chance this coin very well could come up here to retest that level to fill that previous gap from before. Okay, so just know there's definitely a lot of meat left on the bone, if that makes any sense. And this coin does look like it's ready to rock and roll. Let's see if there's any other confirming factors. MACD convergence on the horizon. Hasn't officially converged yet, but it's definitely on the swing. The upswing there, we can see that we have 70 on the RSI, free and clear. In other words, we haven't had the price action come close to that level. We have a lot more room for growth, but we broke above 50, and the money flow index is increasing. Okay, so as the money starts to flow into this coin, we'll start to see more increase here. Got to keep in mind we're still below this moving average, so there is truth here in the sense that we haven't officially broken free just yet. We do need to establish a higher high, which would come after breaking through this level at about 215. Okay, so 215 would be a confirmation of bullish uptrend, but for right now, we're definitely looking good to try to retest that level. So keep in mind that is a decent percent. It's a good 3 or 4% up, so there's a good solid chance this coin could continue. We're going to check for overextension too to see if there's anything else here as well. But we are tentatively, and I like to emphasize tentative, we're only 5 hours away from this candlestick closing. We have not yet closed above the 50 and the 20-day SMA, but that's looking like a probability here. Okay, so that's a pretty good sign there. All in all, the daily looks pretty decent here. Take a look at the 4-hour here and kind of establish what's going on. First of all, moving averages, we got the 200-day SMA hanging out really close to this previous resistance level, that 0.382 Fibonacci. So 215, 216, even as low as 213, this is going to be a resistance range. Okay, in order to break through that, we need to have high volume. Take a look at the volume. It is starting to increase, which is good, but we need that consistently to continue. Okay, so if we take a look at TD sequential, though, we're only 4-hour candles in, 16 hours into this 36-hour continuation. Now, I say 36 because commonly you'll see a 9 on TD sequential, and it'll turn itself around, and obviously 9 times 4 is 36. So hypothetically, we're about halfway into this continuation to the upside. Now, I typically don't like to take trades at this level. I like to wait until they pull back, buy the next dip. But this may not continue to to pull back. It looks like it wants to continue upwards. Okay, so it's got good motivation, good momentum. Motivation. Yeah, I meant momentum. And what we're looking at here is being up over 70 on the RSI. This is typically somewhat of a resistance level. But if you look at this coin here previously, just kind of established, we broke through 70 on the RSI right here, and it did this much. Okay, broke through 70 on the RSI right here, and it did this. So the truth is, when this coin breaks through a resistance level, such as 70 on the RSI, becomes overextended, it continues until it doesn't. Okay, so it becomes overextended eventually, but not right away. And if you take a look at TD sequential in these previous patterns here, it hit a 9 here when it broke through 70 on the RSI both times, eventually pulled back. Hit a 9 plus over time here, and a previous 9 as well. So this coin has a tendency of running pretty long, pretty far. So with its recent history of having that kind of propensity to overextend itself, we're halfway through the overextension. What do you think is going to happen next? It's probably going to fulfill or continue to overextend itself. Yeah, so that's a good sign, ultimately, at least to the upside here. Take a look at the 1 hour. Let's quickly note here on Ichimoku Cloud, we've broken through the cloud, lagging spans free and clear, and all green lights here to essentially leave your long position open and or consider taking a long. You got to recognize too, this most recent high here was blasted through, so if it does pull back, we could see a little bit of a retracement there to that level here at a rough estimate about $2 even. If we take a look at the 4 hour, let's quickly note on Elliott Wave here if there's anything worth noting. And just to quickly touch on this here, previously we saw a perfect Elliott Wave pattern here, our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, followed by an ABC. Okay, so now that our C is in, we could really realistically be starting our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the upside here as well. This coin's definitely looking pretty strong in the overall sense of patterns that are forming and not being extremely overextended. But take a look here at the 4 hour. What we want to note here is just to quickly, and I'll send this on my playout charts. I have playout charts I send out on my Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. So they look something like this, where I kind of explain what I think is going to happen next, kind of summarizing the video. But more importantly, we can kind of see here that if there is to be a pullback, we could see a pullback down to 0.382, 0.5 on Fibonacci here to get that bounce. Coincidentally, those levels are very concurrent with this most recent volume profile there, where we can kind of see the levels. So if the price does pull back, $2 even would be a pretty solid entry. If it continues, I think we're going to probably likely see this most recent high retested about 217. So we could go upwards of about 4.5%, 5%, or we could come down roughly about 3 or 4%. Either way, there appears to be much more likelihood of the price going up than down. Okay? All in all, pretty good stuff here. This coin has my stamp of approval on being a little bit more long bias than short bias. So I definitely think we're on the right side of the tracks here. Hopefully you can take this trade and be very careful in how you take the trade, of course. I always recommend low leverage, low position size. You got to recognize these trades were taken 32%. That was only a 5x leverage trade. Some folks are taking 10 to 20x leverage trades and making a good 90, 180% on those trades. So again, different strategies, of course, but I don't recommend taking large leverage and large position sizes unless we have full-on confirmation. We're kind of in between that confirmational stage right now, where it should continue higher, but me not being much of a breakout trader, I'd prefer for the price to pull back. Okay? So what I do in this situation is probably average my position. I may take entry now with a lower position here in case the price does pull back to that most recent support there at roughly about $2 even, and then to essentially add to my position for the leg up there. Okay? Because it does seem likely we are going to see that little bit of a bounce off of this level here. Okay? Good chance we're going to see a 0.5, 0.382 bounce if it pulls back. Emphasis on the word if. We don't know if it's going to happen just yet. All right. Okay. I thank you so much for watching. If you want to, again, become a better trader, CryptoCash.tech is a site I do have Trading Academy with maybe university videos, as well as, again, those signals that I share with my premium members. Have a great rest of the day. We'll look forward to seeing the next one. Take good care.